Hi. So today I'm making a video that was actually requested, my first request. Super exciting. I am going to talk about the costs of my personal IUI journey. This is with the private clinic I went through. I did medicated cycles. I did have an ectopic pregnancy in my 4th round and a canceled cycle in my 3.5 round. So these are the costs that I endured, and it will definitely be different depending on where you're living, what kind of program you're in, if your insurance covers anything. My insurance covered some of the testing I had done, so I didn't have to pay all of that out of pocket. I did have to pay some of that, and honestly I don't off the top of my head have the prices of all of that, so I put that in, some of that in like a miscellaneous category. But in total I spent close to $22,000. So total I spent $22,000, somewhere in that ballpark, on my 6.5 rounds of IUI to get my amazing son. I am really fortunate, and I'm just going to put that out here right now, that I am under 26, and currently I am still on my mom's health insurance. So while my insurance did not cover any of my IUIs, they are actually covering some, I'm not sure how much, of my IVF process, which is what I will be doing for baby number 2 and beyond. I don't know if I've really said this, but I am starting the process of embryo or egg retrieval and embryo freezing. So I will make a video talking about that, but that is something that my insurance is going to be covering. And it's because they had a cap that I had to be trying for 6 months, I think it was. It might have been a year, because it took me about a year to get pregnant. I had to be trying for a certain amount of time with all the cost on me. And if I didn't get pregnant in that time, then they would cover, I think they cover 3 rounds of IVF. It's 3 or 5 rounds of IVF. And with my pregnancy with my son, I did reach that. So, long way of saying that I did pay out of pocket about $22,000 to get pregnant with my son. The best money I ever spent, obviously. And I'm going to kind of break down the costs for you, talk about how I saved that money. I did, in the comment that asked me to make this video, she did ask for suggestions on jobs for single moms by choice. I will tell you a little bit about the job that I had when I was saving the money to get pregnant and how my living situation really helped me. But also, in full disclosure, I am a full-time grad student getting my degree in education, because on the suggestion of multiple family members, I'm going back to school to become a teacher, to have better hours and a better work-life balance as a single mom by choice. So the only suggestion I can give is to find a job that has a good work-life balance and that works for you to be able to spend as much time with your kid as possible. That's my goal. At the time when I was going through my IUIs and saving up the money, I was working for a really well-known big nonprofit organization in telecommunications. Let's say that. I was basically calling people for donations to this nonprofit. And I did that job for a couple months while I was in college, and then I started working there full-time after college while I was getting my first master's degree. And I say that my living situation also helped me save money. I did after college, during college, after college, and currently still do live with my family. So my son and I, this is our room that I'm sitting in. I'm in a corner because if you saw what's behind this camera, you would think less of me. My son's crib is like right here in front of me and my bed is right here. So, you know, I have bills, but not having rent allowed me to save a ton of money and save enough money that working at that hourly wage job for the nonprofit, I was able to bank enough money to pay for my IUI in cash. So definitely I knew going into IUI that I was going to be paying cash. I knew that I was going to be paying out of pocket. And I prepared for that for a couple years. I started that job when I was 21 and I set up a savings account. I had one, but I started really taking like half or more of my paycheck and putting it straight into savings at that point, knowing that after I got my master's degree, my first one, that I was going to be trying to get pregnant. So that was my goal, was to save as much money as I could. Sorry. My goal was to save as much money as I could for us and our future. So, but yeah, so that's the kind of job I had. I had great hours. I think I said it in one of my other videos that this job, I actually worked from noon to 8:30 at night, which was really convenient doing IUI and fertility treatment tests and all of that stuff, because I could book those for like 9, 10 in the morning, get those done, and still get to work on time at noon, and nobody was the wiser. So I was really, as much as I did not love that job, it really worked for the time I was in my life and what I needed it for. That's why now on what I'm calling my extended maternity leave, that's why I'm doing the egg retrieval process and embryo freezing now, because I have the time now. And I know once I'm in a classroom doing like, I don't know, what do teachers do, like 7:30 to 3:30 or something like that to be in the school. Yeah, once I'm in those kind of hours, it's going to be a lot harder to do the testing and the retrieval. So, I don't know when I'm getting pregnant again, but that is my mindset right now of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So yeah, that job, it wasn't great pay. It wasn't great for anything other than the fact that it was close to home. So I was spending almost no money on gas. I was spending like $20 a week on gas. Or sometimes even like $20 for 2 weeks, because I have no life. And it was convenient hours for what I needed. And because I wasn't paying rent, all the money was going to my savings account. So any way that you can cut expenses, I would definitely look into doing that. Tip number 1. So now that I've babbled about the job I had and where I'm going, let's get into the title of the video, I guess. Let's talk about the actual costs of my IUI. So like I said, I did do 6.5 rounds of medicated IUI. So they were, when you do a medicated cycle, at least at my fertility clinic, they were also monitored. So the cost is more when you do medicated monitored, just because of the sheer amount of, you know, time and people that have to do your ultrasounds and blood work. So each of my rounds of IUI was $1,050, which I didn't think was that bad. You know, if it had worked in a couple rounds, like 1, 2, or 3, it would have been a lot better. But even for 6 rounds, 6.5, because they did give me a partial refund with my half round that only partially worked, or it didn't work, but I had to partially pay because we did the work, like we did monitoring. So they did give me a partial refund for that. But I ended up total, I'm just consulting my notebook. I did end up total for my 6.5 rounds of medicated IUI paying $6,900. So I'm going to put that somewhere down here, $6,900. And I do think that was worth it. You know, I wanted the medicated rounds, and my doctor thought that we should do the medicated rounds. It was a decision we definitely made together. And yeah, I think I had PCOS, or I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And when you have PCOS, I don't want to get like too into that, but you don't always ovulate. So the medicated cycles helped make sure I was ovulating, because without ovulation, there's no baby. So yeah, I would definitely say the medicated cycles were completely worth it. And then my next big cost, this was actually the biggest cost I had, was my donor. And I think I said it before, I am going to make a video about my donor and how I picked him and, you know, what went into that. But I spent $145 on a membership at California Cryobank, which is where I found my donor. And the membership, I did like a level 2 membership. I didn't see a need for a level 3. You can if you want. I didn't need to hear his voice or anything like that. And the great thing about California Cryobank, at least at the time of me filming this, is that I don't even have it within reach. When you report a pregnancy, they will mail you a little flash drive that has all of the donor stuff that you paid for. So my level 2, like everything that encompassed, they sent me on a flash drive. So I do have that for my son. It's in his baby box, which is over here, this way. It's over there under some books and stuff. So that's one of the things in his box, and I think that's a really great thing for him to have if he does have questions, or if I need to refresh and look at, you know, the medical history or something for his medical records. It's something I have. So that $145 was also worth it. I don't think I'm gonna say that anything on this list was not worth it. So yeah. No, the most money I spent was on my donor himself. California Cryobank has different prices for different donors, and there's like anonymous donors and something else, and then there's open donors. And my donor is an open donor, which means he will meet with any child that is born from his product at least once when they turn 18, if they so choose. That openness makes him a more expensive donor. And so he was my donor product was $945 a vial. Yeah. And obviously I had 6 vials to do the 6 rounds. I also bought 3 additional vials, and I'm glad I did, because now my donor no longer donates, and I can ensure that my son has full siblings, which is really important to me. So I bought 9 vials at $945 each, and if you're not good at math, because I'm not, that comes out to $8,505, which I'm going to put right here somewhere. Ton of money. And my doctor actually told me one of the first times I met him, he told me once I pick a donor, right off the bat, buy 6 vials, just to make sure you have it for 6 rounds. And I think I mentioned this in another video. I was very naive. I thought I was going to get pregnant in like 2 or 3 rounds. So I want to say I bought 4 vials to begin with, because when you buy a certain number, and I think it's 4, they give you free storage for a certain amount of time. So I'm like, I'm just going to buy 4. I'll have some left over. It's going to be fine. And I just kept going back. I think I bought vials like 3 times from this cryobank. So yeah, I spent a pretty penny on sperm. Yeah. I had to buy it with my debit card, and my bank, I don't know if every bank does, but mine does, has a limit on your daily spending. So I would call the cryobank on the day I was ordering, and I seem to always get the same guy, but that's not the point. So I got the guy, and I would be like, I want to order this many of this donor, and he would go over like, this donor is this and this and this, and I said, yep, that's the one. And I would give him my card information, or my card was on file. So he would run the card and he would be like, it's saying I can't charge it. And I'm like, the money's in there. Hold on for 1 second. Can I call you back? And I never learned. I never called the bank first. I don't know. So I would call my bank and I would ask them to up my daily limit. And I think I did this like 2 out of the 3 times. They would ask me what I was buying. And I said sperm. I just full on went, sperm. And you could tell that the person on the other end was like, what the hell? But yeah. So I had those conversations with people at the bank. That was fun. So another one of the costs, I spent a lot of money at the cryobank. Like, they got a pretty penny from me, because on top of the $8,505 and the $145 for the membership, I also have paid them over $1,700, $1,755 for shipping and storage of my donor. So every time you ship the donor, it costs money. I think their average is like $180, but sometimes I would get deals, and sometimes I was shipping more than one, and you know, so that's the price. And storage, I am currently paying for storage for 3 years, and I do count that in this cost, because if you buy 6 vials off the top and you do get pregnant in the first couple rounds, you have to decide if you're going to sell back your donor or if you're going to save him for later for more kids. And I always knew I was going to have more kids, so I always knew that I was going to have to pay for storage. And I currently have storage through 2022 with my donor. So we will see what happens by then. But all 3 of my vials are being stored in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And just 1 minute to rant. So my doctor's office, where I was inseminated every time, is in Waltham. And if you know Massachusetts, like, Cambridge to Waltham is not that far. It's just not, okay? And it cost me $180 to have a courier take my donor from Cambridge to Waltham. A lot of money. But worth it, because he got there safely, and I have a baby now. So yeah, just a little rant. I just think that's a lot of money to drive like not very far. And I do think at one point they told me I could pick him up and drive him myself. I probably should have looked into that more. If they offer that to you and you are okay doing that driving, think about it, because $180 to move sperm is a lot of money. All right, so beyond the cryobank costs, I also had like medical costs. So I had different tests done, and co-pays for doctor's visits. And that was over $600. I don't know the exact figure because, like I said earlier in the video, there were tests that my insurance covered part of, but not the whole thing, so I had to pay the difference. And I could not find all of those medical bills. They are somewhere in one of my taxes folders. And I will tell you why at the end of this video. But the bills I could find on like my debit card stuff, those came to about $600. And then I found some other charges that I think were them, and other miscellaneous charges that totaled close to $3,000 for other tests and meds like the methotrexate injection that I had with my ectopic pregnancy, and parking. You never think about parking, but the clinic I was going to had a massive parking garage and I had to pay every time. They have since moved and they have their own lot now. And now people don't have to pay for parking. But I did. So yeah. So yeah, testing and copays and other random medical things, like miscellaneous medical things and parking and all of that, somewhere in the field of $600 and $3,000. And then meds. So meds for me include the prescription prenatal that I was on. My doctor prescribed it and I was on it I'm actually still taking it. So it's been like 2 years that I've been on this prenatal. And that's a monthly fee. That's $25 a month for 30 pills. But it is a really great prenatal and I haven't had any reactions to it. And I know some people get really sick from prenatals, so I really did like it. And the meds also, I'm counting like my trigger shots. So the Clomid that I was on, because I talked about this in another video, I was on letrozole for 1 round of my IUI and Clomid for the other 6 rounds. Because I was on medication for all 6.5. And thankfully my insurance did cover Clomid for me. So I didn't have to pay any of that out of pocket, or letrozole. None of those meds came out of pocket because I could pick them up at like Walgreens, CVS, whatever pharmacy you go to, they have them there. However, my trigger shots, which if I find what med that was, I'll put it down here. I don't know if I will find it though, so and the trigger shots you cannot get from like CVS. You have to get them from a special fertility pharmacy, and they have to ship those, and they come in dried ice in a box, and they come with the container to get rid of the sharps container. So, and every time they give you a sharps container, even though I told them I didn't want one after the first round because I kept it. I don't know. But, so those were not covered by insurance and I had to pay for the trigger shot every time. And the trigger shot was, I think, $54 every round. So the cost of the meds came up to $921 for the meds. So not including the miscellaneous $3,000 fee, my grand total was $18,826. And then the miscellaneous, which I already mentioned what that was roughly $3,000 more, give or take a little bit. And that brings our total to about $22,000. It's a lot of money. And there were definitely days, especially the days that it wasn't working, like the days that I would get a failed cycle, or especially the day that my cycle was canceled, that I was just like, what am I paying for? This is so much money. What am I getting here? And I think it's normal to feel that way. You know, you're working really hard for this money and you're planning to spend so much money, then have a baby and have the rest of that savings go to buying baby things and, you know, buying a house in my case, to, you know, raise your kids in. And you really have to prioritize, I guess. So for me, it was really hard to know that I was spending so much money just to get pregnant, and it very much at times felt like I was throwing money away. But then I look at my son and I don't remember the 22,000. I don't think about it when I look at him. I just look at him and I know that he was worth everything. And I've said it to medical professionals, I've said it to my friends. When you see your baby, they are worth everything you went through. They're worth the shots, the blood, the ultrasounds, the money, the pain, the losses, the failures. Everything flew away. I remember when I was in labor, they told me it was time to push, and I started bawling my eyes out. And that's when it really hit me that everything I had been through was worth that moment. It really was. It was worth everything. And he still is. He's 11 months old now. He just turned 11 months old this week, and every day of the past 11 months has been worth it for me. I'm getting mushy. Sorry. No, I did say I was going to get back to why my forms are in my tax folder. Because I don't know if this is every state. Don't quote me on this. But when I was going through IUI in 2018, this was specifically in 2018. I didn't spend enough in 2019 for it to count. I could take all of my medical bills that I paid, so like almost everything listed on this sheet. If I had proof of it, I could take it, I photocopied it, I put it in my tax folder, and the guy who did my taxes took all of this and it became like a deduction on my taxes. Because if you spend, and again, I don't know if this is everywhere, I don't know if this is still in effect, but it was in 2018 when I did my taxes, or for my 2018 taxes. When you spend more than a certain percentage of your income on medical expenses, you can deduct them. So the 22,000, I think at that point in 2018, I think it was probably about 16,000 at that point, because I didn't spend a ton in 2019. In 2019, I did 2 rounds of IUI. I didn't buy any more sperm. I had it all. I shipped 2 vials once, and I paid for a little bit more medication and the storage of my donor. So I didn't pay for a ton more stuff. So it was probably about $16,000 that I paid in 2018. And that was more than, I think it was 10% of my income. It was well over 10% of my income. It was almost half of my income. In all honesty, $16,000 was. And so I gave him like all of that information and he wrote it off in my taxes. So I would definitely, that's a tip for you. I would talk to whoever does your taxes. If you do them yourself, look into it. If you have somebody who prepares them for you, look into that. But I did get to write off those medical expenses, which it felt good. It definitely felt good to know that, you know, at least that was being recognized by the government. And, you know, back to my sappy thing for one more minute and then I will let you go. But, I know that this is a lot of money. I know that I am really fortunate that I was able to save this money and pay for this. And I know that I am so incredibly fortunate to be able to do IVF with my insurance. I know that not everybody is that fortunate, and I'm sorry if the advice I'm giving isn't helpful or isn't relevant to your life and your experience. It kills me to think that I wasn't helpful to you. I'm really sorry. But like I said, this was my individual experience paying for IUI and how much it costs for me. I know that some states tend to be more expensive or less expensive depending on the volume of fertility clinic offerings. In Massachusetts, we do have a lot of hospitals that do fertility treatments, plus private clinics like mine. So it does tend to be a little bit less expensive in Massachusetts because of the options. Whereas somewhere like, I have family in Pennsylvania, and I know in Pennsylvania it is, or at least where my family lives there in Pittsburgh area, it's more expensive because they have less options available to them. So my third tip today would be to shop around. And like, if you live over the border from somewhere, like if you live in Rhode Island and you don't have as many options, don't quote me on that because I have no idea what the options are in Rhode Island. But if you live somewhere that you can cross into a state that has more options, it may be a cheaper option for you. And to just kind of shop around and be aware that the money you're spending is not money you will miss once you hold your child. There were times that I thought I was going to regret spending this much money. I thought I was never going to get my baby, and I thought I was just throwing money away, and I cried about that a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. But as soon as I saw my first ultrasound with my son, as soon as they told me I was pregnant, but especially when I saw my first ultrasound and I knew he was there and he was okay and I was going to get him, I completely forgot about the money. I did. So, a lot of talk. If you do have any questions, or if you have any advice on great jobs, hour-wise, money-wise, work-life balance-wise, that could be great for single moms by choice, or single moms not by choice, definitely comment them down below and we can start a conversation about them. And definitely feel free to request any videos you want, ask any questions. I'm pretty much an open book. And I will see you guys later. Bye.